Are Displaced by Malala Yousafzai. Sabreen No Turning Back. I waited for Zainab's flight to leave. I had to see it disappear behind the clouds before I could actually believe it was true. My big sister was gone. All I had was her oversized and heavy suitcase. I fought back tears as I dragged that bag through the airport and into the same car that had taken me there. My sister was in the air, flying to a new life, and I was returning to an old one, but different. From that moment on, everything felt so empty. The city, the house, my heart. That first week was so hard. People treated me differently. When I was with Zainab, I had support. She always had my back. Now I was on my own. I soon found a group of Yemeni girls that I befriended through my cousin Fahima. We all dreamed about leaving Egypt. One of them had heard about a boat that took people to Europe. We decided to investigate. That was how I learned I needed $2,200. $100 would buy a ticket to the coastal city of Alexandria. Once there, I needed another $100 to stay in a place until it was safe to travel. The remaining $2,000 was to board the boat to Italy. When I told Zainab I wanted to do this, she got quiet. "Isn't that dangerous?" she asked. I was so disappointed and a bit angry. Easy for her to say. It was better than waiting in Egypt for a visa that might not ever come. I was tired of waiting. It had been 2 years since I applied, so I begged my big sister to convince our mother it was a good idea. She promised she would. I was so relieved when the money finally arrived. The bus ride from Cairo to Alexandria was long. I sat with my cousin Fahima and 2 friends. We agreed to say that we were all sisters so we would not get split up. During that trip, I had to contain my excitement. After months of making plans and waiting for money to fund them, we were finally on our way. My friends and I talked about the ocean liner we were about to board. We imagined that we would get 3 meals a day and have a view of the water as we made our way to Italy. The person we paid for the trip had promised us this. When we arrived in Alexandria, we paid the $100 for our accommodations and were looking forward to a good night's sleep. We had imagined a hotel room, so we were shocked when we arrived at an empty warehouse with a concrete floor and no furniture or even blankets. This was a mistake, we agreed as we all huddled together. The rest of the journey would be better. After a cold and sleepless night there, we were ushered onto another bus. The windows had been covered by black plastic, which made it feel as if we were traveling at night, even though the sun shone brightly outside. While I could not see out the window, I knew from the bumpy and twisty ride that we were driving on backcountry roads. I felt a bit sick, mostly because the bus was so packed with people that there was no air to breathe. Then I overheard people talking about how dangerous the actual crossing was. "If we get caught, we will wind up in jail," I heard someone say. That was when I got really scared. I knew what we were doing was risky, but I never imagined going to jail. For what? For simply wanting a better life? For wanting to be reunited with my sister? It seemed impossibly cruel, but as I listened to these stories in the pitch black, I started to worry that I had made a mistake. If we got caught, and I went to jail, I would never see my sister again. We traveled on that bus from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but if anyone asked the driver to stop, he would ignore them. After a while, people were desperate. We needed to go to the bathroom. We needed water. At one point, passengers started shouting, "Stop the bus!" It worked. The driver slammed on the brakes, and the bus came to a lurching halt. I was so relieved. I needed to pee, and I was desperate for fresh air. Instead of opening the doors to let us out, the driver got out of his seat and stormed down the aisle, hitting people with his fist and shouting, "Shut up! If you make noise, you're going to get me arrested!" That scared me so much that I forgot I had to pee. As he clomped back to his seat, he yelled, "This is not fancy travel. You're refugees. Shut up and stay silent." I closed my eyes to try to contain the tears leaking down my face. All my dreams of what this trip could be were crashing down around me. We may be refugees, I thought, but he's treating us like wild animals. Everyone must have had similar thoughts, because the bus was quiet the rest of the trip. An hour or more passed, and I was so parched. I just wanted to wet my mouth but had no water left. I was sitting with my friend, who went to get the water bottle from our other friend, who was sitting near the driver. Just as she got out of her seat, the bus stopped. The driver opened the door, grabbed my friend, and literally threw her off the bus and shouted, "Run!" Then he started screaming at everyone, "Go! Run!" I jumped up and made my way to the door. I was holding my coat, which the driver grabbed and threw out the door, shouting, "Run! Go! Run!" My heart beat so fast that my feet could not keep up. I grabbed my jacket and started sprinting as fast as I could, following those running in front of me, and then I saw the never-ending expanse of blue. We were at the Mediterranean Sea. We'd made it. As I ran toward the beach, I searched for the boat I had imagined, a big fancy ship with sleeping bunks and toilets. Instead, I saw only 3 small fishing boats lined up on the shore. I was so confused. By then, my lungs burned from running so fast. I started wheezing. There was not enough air for me to breathe in. Looking back, I now think that was panic I was feeling. Where was the boat? We could not possibly be getting on the fishing boats in front of me. They were too small. The waves were too big. I wanted to go back to my aunt's house. I did not want to get on one of those fishing boats to cross the Mediterranean Sea. That was madness. And as all this dawned on me, I felt paralyzed. I literally couldn't move my feet. At that moment, a man approached me and asked, "Why are you crying?" I said, "I can't go, I'm scared." He said, "There's no turning back." But I could not move. Others were piling into the boats, and this man literally picked me up and placed me in one. I snapped out of my daze and shouted, "My sisters! I cannot travel without them!" He found them for me in the crowd. As they climbed into the boat with me, I felt much better. At least we were together. Just then, our bus driver arrived, brandishing a knife. He said, "Everyone who has any Egyptian money or jewelry, give it to me." Everybody was confused. He started collecting our money, and then saw a woman wearing a ring and said, "Give me that ring." She did as she was told. My friends and I were so scared that we started reciting the Holy Quran, asking Allah for help. This freaked out the man taking our money. "I have to do this to feed my family," he said. "I don't take any money from the travel fee. It goes to the big bus, and I make only a little bit of money. That's why I asked for your money. It is the only way for me to survive." Someone mentioned his knife, and he said, "I don't have it to hurt people. I have it in case the police come while we are at sea. It is better to kill myself than be caught." I knew then that there really was no turning back. My friends and I were already on the boat with other refugees from Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Egypt. More were arriving as more buses pulled in. A mother approached our boat holding her 5-year-old boy. She had to walk over slippery, wet rocks to get into our boat and lost her balance. The boy fell into the cold water. He did not cry, but when the 2 climbed into the boat with us, I noticed he was shivering. I had packed an extra jacket for the trip, which I dug out of my bag and gave to him. We set off in rough waters, the waves crashing up and over the sides of our boat. I stayed huddled with my girlfriends and dreamed of the big boat with bedrooms and bathrooms and 3 meals a day. The man who had carried me to the boat was our captain. He assured us that we were going to a bigger boat, but that did not happen. We were in the middle of the sea when another small boat met us. He told us to get into it. "Where's the boat with bunk beds we were promised?" I asked. He said, "Once we get to the big boat, everyone will have their own room and a shared bathroom. There will be food." But when we finally made it to the 3rd boat on the 6th day, none of that was true. While it was bigger than our fishing boats, it was made to hold only 100 people, and there were 400 of us. We had to squeeze ourselves on. By then, we had eaten all the food we had brought with us, and had been sleeping sitting up because there was no room to stretch out. Every morning, I would wake up after nodding off and see the sky and think, "Oh, am I in heaven? Am I still alive?" When I saw the 3rd boat, I thought, "I'm not going to survive." I was too exhausted to cry. At least on that boat, they gave us beans, tuna, and bread, but the beans weren't cooked, and the bread was moldy. There was no bathroom, only a box where people could relieve themselves. It quickly filled, and every time the boat rocked, the contents would spill onto the boat floor, where we were sitting. The captain told us we were getting close to the coast, but 3 hours from land, the boat ran out of fuel. Someone suggested swimming, but none of us had life vests, and I didn't even know how to swim. I have never been so scared in my life. After several hours of waiting for a miracle, someone saw a ship in the distance. People started shouting and crying. It was a large ship, the one in my dreams. The Italian Coast Guard looked for boats like ours because so many refugees were fleeing. That was what the sailors told us as they invited everyone on board. I had never been so thankful in my life. At that point, we had not had food or water for more than a day. That ship contacted the Red Cross, which sent another ship to rescue us. Meanwhile, the Italians gave us water and food and blankets. They let us use their bathroom, which was so clean that I burst into tears. Those tears continued all the way to Italy, as the crew on the ship assured us they were taking us to a safe place. Within 2 hours, I saw land for the first time in 9 days. I started to sob all over again. I never thought I would see land again, and yet, there it was in the distance. End of Part 2, Sabreen No Turning Back.